Happy Friday to you. I'm glad to be with you all today. A couple days ago, I was sitting out on the front porch at my house, and I was starting to think about all the things that I needed to do tomorrow. All the emails that were starting to come through, what I needed to move up to the top of the list of things that I needed to get done. And I started to think about the kids and what sports things I needed to get them to tomorrow, and all the different things around the house that I needed to get done as the weather is starting to change, and on and on. So many things to think about. If you've been there before, you probably realize that you're not just thinking about what to do, you're starting to worry. So I stayed outside for a few more minutes trying to come to some resolution in my mind to figure out what I would do about tomorrow's problems. I somewhat gave up and headed inside, and unfortunately for my wife, she was already heading to bed, and so I decided to share all the things I was thinking about. She aptly reminded me where Jesus says in Matthew chapter 6, don't worry. Don't worry about tomorrow's problems. So then that got me thinking, but why? Why does Jesus tell us not to worry? Is it just a bad thing to do? Is worrying sinful or something that we should feel guilty about? Well, what I learned from Matthew chapter 6, I hope is helpful for you as tomorrow's problems start to head into today. If you haven't read Matthew chapter 6, I encourage you to do so. Read it today. But I'm going to kind of walk through it quickly as we're having our devotional this morning. At the beginning of Matthew chapter 6, Jesus starts off by saying, when you give to the needy, don't do it in a showy way. Don't do it with trumpets in the street, or maybe we could say a selfie on social media, because when you do it that way, you're doing it for others. You're not doing it for God, and God's not going to reward you. Jesus goes on and he says that when you pray, don't do it in such a showy way that people think you're so theological and so spiritual. Pray to God, and he'll reward you. Jesus gives one last example where he says, when you fast, don't try to make yourself look all hungry that people say, oh, look at that guy. He looks awful. He must be so spiritual. No, we do it in such a way that we're fasting for God, and he'll reward us accordingly. Now, maybe you're saying, well, hey, I do those good things. Where is my reward? I'm not independently wealthy. I don't seem to be gaining from all these good things I'm doing. Where's my reward at? Well, Jesus lets on next when he says, you're not supposed to store up treasures here or they're going to get destroyed, where they won't last. He says instead that you should be laying up treasures in heaven. That's what Jesus means when he says God will reward you. Our reward is found in heaven. That's when God rewards us. But maybe you're saying, well, I got a lot of needs. I have children. I have a house. I got many things that I have to pay for. I need money to survive. Well, that's when Jesus says next, you can't serve God and money. Meaning that you'll never have enough money, and you can't control what the markets are going to do. You can't control what your future is for your job. You can't control the different needs and expenses that you have coming up. That's why we serve God. But this is when Jesus comes to the point when he tells us not to worry. You see, because we can't control everything, worrying does us no good. But we know someone who does control everything, and that's God. That's why we serve God. That's why we do good things for others, because God's got it under control. So when tomorrow's problems come into today, and you start to worry about what to do and what you have to do, Jesus' words to us in Matthew chapter 6 are this: don't worry, but have faith. Have faith in God who does control everything. Have faith in God who controls your eternal destiny. Have faith instead of worry. Worry does nothing for you. Faith in God is a way to move forward. So as you head into this weekend, and perhaps Monday's troubles start to creep into this weekend when you're trying to rest and relax and unplug, I want you to remember, it's not about just not worrying. It's about having faith in God who controls everything.